Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 197 of the Masterclass. My name is Cam Brennan, and I am joined, of course, by Dave Hogue. What is good, my dude?
Lots of things are good. So, excited to be here with you. Just mentioned that this is 7 years, which I can't believe.
Yep. This podcast is a second grader.
Yeah. A lot has happened in the last 7 years.
Holy cow. You are not kidding.
Yeah. So, on the other side of the holidays and getting back into the routine, and we're kind of getting settled into our new house, and so things are good.
Does the new house get the approval from the college kid?
Yeah.
She's cool with it.
Yeah. She still has her own room, so that's what
problem solved.
That's what matters to her. So
that's fair. It's nice to have your own space.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. So she still has her own room. And then, with the holidays, there was still plenty of room for everybody here. So that was a good thing.
Indeed. Man, I'm still reeling a bit from the college football playoff. I don't really want to talk about it a whole lot, but Michigan got, what's the word? Completely, utterly embarrassed, I think is the right word.
Yeah. I think that's the right word.
But hey, it is what it is. 12 wins, yes. Big Ten champions, made the playoff for the first time. The only team ever to start the season unranked and make the playoff. Granted, it's only been
oh, really?
8 years, I think, but still, we're the only ones that started the season unranked and made the Final Four. So, yay, progress.
Interesting.
So, yeah. You want to talk about the Bible?
We can do that.
Okay, good, because that's what this show is about. So we are in our 197th episode on the 12th chapter of Hebrews. And if you're a new listener, don't worry. We did not spend the first 196 episodes on the first 11 chapters of Hebrews. We've been through many books of the Bible with a full back catalog for your pleasure, should you care to indulge. And like I said, we are in chapter 12 of Hebrews, and we're just going to talk about the first 2 verses, which are, I think, fairly well known. I don't know if I ever would have guessed that these verses were in Hebrews, but as we read them before the show, it's like, oh yeah, I've heard this one a bunch of times. But they're very good, so we're going to spend the whole show talking about those 2. Sound like a plan?
Yeah.
All right. Well, would you like to do the honors?
Absolutely. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God.
Thank you, sir. So, chapter 12 comes right after chapter 11, Dave. Did you know that?
It's
I know.
crazy.
And so we spent multiple episodes going over chapter 11, talking about, right, all these examples of faith throughout scripture. And so there's the old silly Bible study saying, what is the therefore? Therefore. Right? And so in this case, this is a pivot point, right? So he just spent the last 40 verses talking about the importance of faith, what it looks like, why it's important, all that stuff. So after making that giant point about faith, he says, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, we can talk about that first, right? I never, like I said, I've heard this verse a bunch, but I never really think of myself as surrounded by like they're all watching me. That makes me feel not great, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think that they're sitting there in the stands watching us and like we're the main play on the stage so much as like we're all in it together, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I haven't really done any deep study on this, which, you know, for better or worse, probably worse. So this is just my initial reaction to it is if we're surrounded by this cloud of witnesses, like we are in it. We are part of that. We are part of the faith. We are in the faith. We are all connected in that way, sort of moving together, whether, you know, it be me and you or me and Abraham and you and Noah, right? Like they're still alive, but they're with God in eternity and it's not on this earth, but we still share the same faith across that divide. And so that's a pretty neat thing to think about, that we may be physically separated, but we share the same faith. We live the same faith, you know, same struggles, all that sort of stuff. I don't really think I ever think about it that way. I'm generally really focused on myself, which I think says a lot about the stuff that I've got to work on. But it does feel pretty encouraging to think that we are a part of this, not just with the people, you know, our friends, our family, the people we go to church with, but the collective body of Christ across all time is in it together at the same time because, you know, time and space and God and all of that fun stuff. That's pretty nifty.
Yeah. And, you know, again, we talk about the audience for this is early followers of Christ, people who most likely were familiar with the Hebrew faith, and following Jesus was probably not an easy thing for them in those early days. And so, you know, you just said it was encouraging. And so I think that's definitely what's going on here is there's much encouragement being given to those early followers, what do we call it these days? Early adapters, early
adopters,
the technology, early adopters. Because it wasn't a world religion, and you know, they were that foundation for it to kind of carry on after, you know, Jesus came and did his thing. The baton had really been handed off to them. And so, and my understanding is there's a lot of persecution going on, for them. So it was not easy. And so, so I even think that too, of just that it was encouraging for them. It's encouraging for us. And we are all part of that same story. So Yeah, those are just my thoughts on the.
Yeah, and he goes right from that, like the encouraging thought, to what that encouraging thought should result in, right? Lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. And so when he talks about laying aside every weight and the sin that, some translations say will so easily entangle, right? That's how
Right.
I remember it in my head, because I think I grew up on the
Yep.
NIV. Um, it reminds me of, Jesus saying, all you who are, weary, come to me. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. Come rest, you know. And I read this, and that passage comes to mind. Lay aside every weight. You don't need to carry it anymore. Come walk with me. Let's share the burden. Even though the burden will be light, we can share it. And I also think that like when you lay something aside, or you set it down, or you like, that's a conscious choice, right? Like I'm taking this backpack and setting it down. I'm dropping this giant, like it's a very illustrative word choice, right? To lay something aside. It's just like, okay, I'm done with this now. I don't need it anymore. And that's, I think, also part of, what frustrates me about, myself. And I know that I'm not the only one in this, is like, why do I choose to carry the burden? Why do I choose some days to just be like, you know what? I'm just gonna hang on to this garbage a little bit longer. And I get so mad at myself in hindsight. Like, why are you so dumb? Why are you so dense? Why do you beat yourself up? Why do you intentionally hold on to the burdens of life, right? Sin. Like it says, the sin which clings so closely, like the sin's doing the clinging. I don't need to help it by holding on to it. Like, we don't need double clingage here. It's
Yeah.
already trying to, like, leech me. So I don't know. That's just kind of like where my head's been at the past couple of days. So this is a timely passage. I've just been in my head a ton. I haven't had Kennedy, and I really haven't had work. So I've just been like in my head about a lot of crap, and this has been sort of front and center. It's just like, why, Cameron? Why? And I call myself by my full name in my head to make myself know that I'm mad at myself. And if now you think I'm a crazy person, then you're, well.
Oh well.
Oh well. Cat's out of the bag, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I feel like I've been at a very similar place of not working, and maybe in some ways kind of doing some of my first reflecting since leaving law enforcement. And I've really been at this place of just like, I'm looking for that next challenge, that next thing, and I guess the question I've been asking myself is like, what would it look like if I really completely lived my life for God? And it's like, you're just like, okay, so why am I not even doing that? Like, why has that not been a thing the whole time? But yeah, so I've been kind of at a similar place of just kind of going, what would that look like for me to truly do that? So, And then I kind of even, I guess this was a thought, it was eluding me there for a second of, as we read this book, or read these chapters, we're surrounded by a great cloud of witness. Let us lay aside every weight and sin which so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Like, if I really believe what I believe, why is that not, And so, yeah, maybe really not that different than conversations that you and I have had so far during the podcast, but yeah, lately, and just those hours of not having to get up, and I can think and reflect, and this has really kind of been central for me. And one of the things that I will say is I feel like I have pursued a lot of things, or well, maybe that is the accurate way to say it. I've pursued things, but I feel like I've made that attempt in the past, like to truly live my life for God. Like, I'm not like 50 years old going, I've never done that before.
Uh-huh.
But I do have this element of like being like, yeah, I feel like I've tried this and it just doesn't work, And so, maybe even a sub question in all of this is, what do I need to do differently compared to the way I've done it in the past? And I think even just the way I'm talking is a good illustration. There's very much this element of me doing, and the thought, the process that we've been at is just like, I think I just need to surrender more and just be more like available to God, and just be like, I will do what you have for me. And anyway, I don't know if that's making sense or not.
I'm glad you brought that part up, because I was gonna push back a little bit. But to your point, like, that, even like hearing that, it's like, yeah, but like, shouldn't I do more? Like, I should just surrender. Like, you're right, 100%. But it doesn't. We're so conditioned to achieve.
So yes, that has been like the big part of this. And I've even been trying to differentiate how much of this is cultural for me, how much is this just in my wiring to exactly what you said, to achieve. And so yeah, I guess that's just, I'll leave it at that. That's just where I'm at, of just going, I want more. I want to live my life for God. And I feel like at this stage in the game, there's less of a resistance in terms of, oh, I don't really want to do that. And there's more of this, just like, I don't know if I know how to do that.
So anyway. That's great that you brought up the next part. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, right? So that's the endurance being the key word, right? And that's the part that I don't like, because like, there's just some days where I just want to lay here. Sometimes physically, oftentimes spiritually. Like, I just want to spiritually crawl up in the fetal position and just not deal with life. just want to lay here.
Oh yeah.
And I'll get, I'll get back with you in a day or two. Like, I can't, and part of that is selfishness, because it's easier to not do the hard stuff in the short term. That always comes back to make things harder in the long run, because it's easier to stay in shape than it is to get back into shape. It's easier to maintain, right, than it is to start from scratch.
Yeah.
And so there is something to the momentum that comes with consistency.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes easier it becomes like muscle memory in a sense, spiritual muscle memory, if that's a thing. But this concept, right, of endurance means consistency over a long time, right? And what? Oh gosh, who is it that said like discipleship is like a long obedience in the same direction? Was that? Oh gosh, was that Bonhoeffer?
No, it's
It's
I know who it is. It's on the tip of my
British
tongue,
guy,
and I
isn't it?
can't. Oh, I wouldn't have said
Oh
British.
gosh, I'm messing this up.
Um,
Anyways, someone really smart said that. If you know who it is, let us know. That'd be great because that's going to bug me. I guess I could Google it, but I don't want to right now. But that's the thing, right? It's not. How do I say this? It's one foot in front of the other, right?
Mhm.
Slow and
Right,
steady. But it's not just you by yourself, right? We are with this cloud of witnesses, whether it's the people that you are with physically or the entire weight of everybody that comprises the body of Christ moving in the same direction. And I think one of the things that we miss, especially in modern American Christianity, is our culture is so individualistic. Everything is about me
Yeah.
and my story and what I can get when we are the center of the universe culturally. That's just how Western society is right now. And that's not how humans were before. Like, this is a new thing. And we know this
Yeah.
historically. And so I think one of the things that we lose growing up when and where we did is that we lose that sense of community and we lose that sense of belonging because we are so focused on our individuality and what makes us different or what
Mhm.
makes us happy or what our truth is. Which every time I hear someone say it, I giggle because it's just like, oh my God, I can't even. But I think there's something to this concept of community going hand in hand with endurance, right? Like, you look at people that train for marathons or, the long bike races or rarely do they do it alone. Some of them will, but generally
Right.
they've got someone, whether like I had a friend who ran the Chicago Marathon. She would drive an hour and a half back to where her home was to go run with the group that she was running the race with when she could, because it's easier and more enjoyable and you have support when you train with other people.
Right.
I never went to a gym by myself. I only ever went to a gym to work out when I had someone to go with. I won't do it by myself because I hate
Yeah.
it. But if I have someone to go with or someone to train me, then I have someone to talk to and someone to encourage me, right? And so I don't think
Right.
it's a coincidence at all that the author spent so much time talking about all of these people and just handpicking a few people out of the history of the Old Testament and then saying, now that you know what you're a part of, that you're not alone, that you have people present with you and spiritually with you, you don't have to carry this by yourself. You have people to help you fight the sin, and you have people to encourage you in that endurance, to run next to you, in front of you, behind you, to pick you up when you fall. There's
Mhm.
just, yeah, life is better with people. And that's true for faith as well. That's why church meeting in person is so important. Why studying the Bible with someone in person, or at least as close as we can get. But like
Yeah.
doing it with other people in proximity, living with other people in proximity. That's why COVID has been so hard for so many people, right? It's the isolation. Even if you're not a spiritual person or you don't have faith, it still affects us. We're not meant to be alone.
Mhm.
Like we know this. And anyways, I think I've beat this into a bloody pulp at this point. But I guess my thought is, while there are days spiritually where I'm like, I can't today. I'm just like, nope, I'm just going to hide here and pretend that that's an okay thing to do. It's because when I feel alone or I feel isolated, that's the easier option. And what I need to do in that point is to realize that I'm hitting quit for the day and then figure out, okay, what friend am I about to call to help me get myself off of my butt and start taking, a step or two. Um, because when you live by yourself and, at this stage of life, all my friends have kids. We all have jobs. Like, it's not their job to, like, well, better check on Cam. Now, sometimes they do, but like, I'm an adult, right? So, like, in that moment, I need to do what I know is right, which is reach out, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a friend. It could be like, all right, God, I really want to quit right now. Well, you got to do something because I'm about to go lay in the bed. Anyways, I hope that made a lick of sense.
Yeah, and I mean, so I guess my question is then, or not question, but I don't know. What I'm thinking of is just spiritual disciplines, because there is an element of unplugging that goes with spiritual disciplines. And I know it's not exactly what you're saying, but if we were better at having those in our life, would we be able to accomplish kind of what you're talking about in terms of you're still unplugging?
Yeah,
but you're not unplugging from God. You're not,
because I can tell you exactly the stretches where I am struggling. I just don't feel, great about life or about myself or whatever, and I'm in my head about all. Those are the times when I'm not reading my Bible and I am not praying and I am self-isolating. You know what I mean? From God, right? And I'm not seeking that out. And then I wonder why I feel the way that I do. Like, well, duh, Cam, you have not, you have chosen, shame or guilt or anger or whatever over the connection with God that is just, he's right there. Like we read in chapter 4, right? He sits on the throne of, like, ready to give mercy for those, like, come close. It's here. I want to help you. And so that's again, the frustrating part. Like, wow, what a wretched man that I am. Like, why do I do the dumb stuff and not do the right things? And so, yeah, the spiritual disciplines 100% are a thing for very, very good reasons. Like, they're not there to torture us. They're there to help us, to encourage us, to lift us up, to help build that consistency and that endurance. And yet, there are days when I say, screw them. And that is what really makes me angry at myself. Why? Why do I make that stupid choice? Because playing video games is easier. Or watching a movie is easier, right? It's just laziness. Choosing comfort over my eternal good. Yeah, and when I say it that way, that's right. Wow, that's what a dumb thing to do, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was verse 1. On to verse 2. Looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. So, I'm going to say something, and I don't mean it to sound, what's the word? Sarcastic or
glib.
But this is the carrot dangling, right?
Okay.
But do you get why I didn't like the concept, right? I've told you what you need to do. Here's who to look to. This is the, the one who, like, if he could go through the cross for the joy, like, you can do this too. And so I guess I didn't mean it to be like sacrilegious, right? Jesus is the dangling carrot that will get us to, like, but it is the thing that we are encouraged, the person we are encouraged to look to, right? For a good reason. So maybe I should have thought of a better way to say that, but it's on the internet forever now, so whatever. So it says he's the founder and perfecter of our faith. So we're that's the connection, right? We're talking about faith. We're talking about endurance in faith. And then we're looking to Jesus. Why? Well, he founded the faith that we have, right? And he also perfected it because he did not sin. So if we're going to look to somebody, it should be him. Straightforward.
Yeah.
And this is the part that I think trips a lot of people up, right? Who for the joy that was set before him endured murderous torture. It's a very odd pairing to put together, right? And I was, again, reading, I finally finished Gentle and Lowly the other week. I've talked about it a bunch on the show. Everyone should buy it and read it. Just trust me.
I just came across it the other day. I think I've read the first chapter, so I need to pick that back up again.
But that was a book where like I would read like 1 or 2 chapters and then like not touch it for 2 weeks because I was just like, holy crap, man, I have to. And it's not like that it's written densely. It's just so good. And I was like, man, I really need to like. I can't go back to this book. It's kicking my butt too much. Like, but anyways, he endured the cross not because it was on his to-do list or because daddy said so or because he even wanted to, because he really didn't want to, but he did it anyways. Right? It says here, for the joy set before him. Well, what joy? Certainly not the torture, certainly not the mockery, certainly not the death, but what came after, right? Eternity with the people made in his image. So he was willing to go through the horrible part for the joy that would come after it. Everything being reconciled the way that it was meant to be. The adoption of his children, one big family, right? And like I said earlier, I'm not necessarily the best at choosing the long-term good over the present time. Not even good, just like average. Like, or the present stupid choice I will choose over the long-term good. And it's that sort of outlook that Jesus had, that we're called to look to, right? Is to keep our eyes, our hearts, our minds on eternity and not on, well, do I hang out with God or do I watch another 4 episodes? Another 4 episodes. and stay
Yeah.
up too late. And it's just like, anyways. So for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, despising the shame. So that's right. It was like a double-edged sword. Not only was it for the joy that was coming, but like
yeah.
we're gonna kill this shame. Like I want both so much. I want the joy that will come for what this will accomplish, but I also want to hate the sin and take care of it and to kill it. And then the end result, right, is seated at the right hand of the throne of God.
Mm-hmm.
Where, as we read in other places in Hebrews, he's interceding for us and advocating for us. He's not up there, working on his needlepoint. He's working for us, which just still blows my mind. Whew. Any other thoughts, Dave?
Yeah. My thoughts are, I'm going on tangents in my head, actually, that I don't know that I want to completely go down that road, but, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just how profound it is what he did. It defies logic. Can the creator of the universe not do something different? Like, why would he have to humble himself? Why would he have to, you're God, you can do, and it was just this, ultimate act of love. Tremendous amount of love that had to be involved in that. And I wouldn't do it. Like, I just am like, you don't like me? You don't want to be with me? Okay. Fine. I don't care.
Yeah, you're what is
and
it?
yet God, the creator of the universe, chooses to do that. And so
Heaven just has a piece of paper with the tape sign on it. No idiots allowed, just taped on the front gate. That's not true. Well, Dave, don't take this the wrong way, but I'm glad that you're not God.
You and me both. You and me both. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's pretty, because even that is just humbling. Again, here's our example that we're supposed to look at. And I'm like, man, there's just not, and I think, I think we can go to the other extreme too. And we can start, all the things that we're talking about in terms of self-doubt and choosing. I think you can also start looking around and going, well, I've got my act together compared to the vast majority of these clowns.
Yeah.
But then that's not the standard. And so, yeah. And again, I just can't even imagine, being an early believer in just the dependence of this faith to continue through just everyday people. And even today, people that live in the Middle East, that live in China, where, I know the church is flourishing, and they do have that, I think, a greater sense of community and less of an individualistic perspective. And, being motivated for them as a life or death kind of motivation. It's not about comfort. It's not about what, and then, so anyway, like I said, I don't want to get down too many tangents, but yeah, it just is, the vastness of who God is and his love and his grace and his mercy. And then those members of the body right now that really are dealing with that persecution and all those kinds of things that, there is just that element of, I'm reminded of Elie Wiesel, a book called Night, I think. It's he talks about, and I'll shoot it to you if we stick it in the notes, but talking about what happened to people of the Jewish faith during World War II and Auschwitz and the concentration camps and the atrocities that they saw. And in one of those, he talks about basically the Nazis using Jewish babies for target practice. And I have an image of a baby being thrown in an air and being shot at, and him kind of coming out the other side of that, of like really being in a place of like, God, you've abandoned us. Like, why would I choose to have you as a God? And so there's, and I feel like I'm just kind of vomiting all over the place here. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
But there's even that too, of just, my life has been so easy compared to what others have had. And I haven't had those just truly dark nights of just wondering where God was and why he's not showing up and why he allows things to happen. And so, yeah. I guess my what I'm saying is an awful lot is being spurred by just, again, these two verses, which I think we anticipated on the front end. So
definitely. That's why we chose just these two.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that that'll wrap it up for this episode. Show notes can be found at supermegacorp.net/masterclass/197. And if you're listening on your phone or whatever in a podcast app, they're there. You can find them. You're smart and intelligent. And yeah, there's links to the good stuff, and we'll be back next time. Farewell.
Goodbye.